It took me 25 years to finally play Banjo Tooie, but it only took 25 minutes for me to fall in love with it. With 35 hours to 100% completed, I can confidently say this here is one of my favorites on the N64.
Rest well, you beautiful game. Thank you for the happy memories.
As someone who is very late to...
I'm kidding. Bad joke. I love both of these games.
As someone who's very late to the Banjo party, I've got a thing to say. My understanding with the internet has always been, Banjo-Kazooie is so good, it's the GOAT. And I heard less good things about its sequel. Not bad things, but it was my understanding that it was a lesser game in comparison. Now that I've played both to completion, I can finally understand where these comments are coming from. Banjo Tooie is a lacking sequel. No, wait a minute. That must be a typo in the script. That's not what it should say there. It should say that it's an amazing, jam-packed sequel, because I love this game to death. The three biggest complaints I've heard about this game comes down to 1, too much backtracking, 2, too many minigames, and 3, the worlds are too large. But all I hear is, the game is too long. I'm gonna defend Banjo Tooie the same way I defended Donkey Kong 64. I'd rather have too much to do than too little. You don't have to collect it all. You don't have to 100% the game. Do the bare minimum amount to beat the game, and I promise you'll still have a fun time. Also, Tooie took some massive quality of life improvements that DK64 needed. The backtracking is nothing in comparison. The minigames are more entertaining and are better tied into the worlds they exist in. And the worlds... okay, yeah, I might have to agree with this one. The worlds are pretty massive. I'm getting a little ahead of myself though. For this review, I want to highlight the areas of Banjo Tooie that really jumped out to me, comparisons to the first game, and those 3 big complaints mentioned earlier. I absolutely love this game, but I'm aware of its flaws too. The first talking point I want to focus on is the story. Tooie set the bar so high within the first hour of the game. Before even entering the game's first world, we see Klungo's efforts to free Gruntilda from the boulder that trapped her in the previous game, Grunty's sisters drilling through Spiral Mountain and saving Grunty, Banjo and Kazooie's home getting blastomatic, Spiral Mountain destroyed, and Bottles dying.
What? He's dead?
A boss fight with Klungo, the destruction of Jinjo Village, King Jingling turning into a zombie, the guilt of meeting Bottle's family and not sharing the news of his ghost form, meeting Jam Jars for new moves, and Master Jiggy Wiggy to open up worlds. So much is on the table. This story feels that much larger and more personal. You know that feeling when entering Hideout Helm in DK64? Those drums hit hard. It's time to lock in and get serious. I get that similar feeling here. Grunty took it way too far this time, and the game takes a darker tone. Tootie getting kidnapped was an easy decision for the first game. It's like Princess Peach getting kidnapped. Gotta go save the girl. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just respect Tooie for finding a way to take it a step further. Assuming that the players have already played the first game, they will feel the absolute disrespect from these witches. I find Skeleton Grunty to be a really funny design, but a great way to indicate just how much time has passed. She's not beaten up or bloodied, enough time has passed for her to be a full-blown skeleton, which also adds to her wanting to get her revenge so badly. She looks worse than before. Stealing Banjo's sister won't save her this time. She's out for blood. And so, with the destruction of the Hag 1 drill, I thought this was a clever way to expand the environment. Rare could have simply expanded Grunty's lair by tacking on another hallway of worlds, but I feel like this better connects the characters, the world, and the story. I've always wondered where these Jinjos came from. Well, from Jinjo Village, of course. Why are we just now meeting Humbawamba? I think she's too smart to ever step foot in the witch's lair. So as I reached the end of my blind playthrough, I was curious if there would be another Grunty's Furnace Fun segment. That entire section of the first game was beyond stressful, but made for a unique way to test the players in their ability to really do their homework and discover every little detail about this game. But as for this game, it's kind of a miniature version of Furnace Fun. Tower of Tragedy is far more straightforward and insanely fast moving, but I get the sense that Rare wanted to have an epic showdown similar to Furnace Fun, but maybe they were limited with a deadline. Knowing that Cauldron Keep was meant to be a full-blown finale world, it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. But there's a part of me that's also relieved that it's shorter. This game is that much more lengthy, so I don't know. Another Furnace Fun ending might be overkill. Tower of Tragedy is still very on brand with the Banjo games and Rare, in my opinion. So it's not like it sticks out like a sore thumb. Grunty taking out her own sisters with a one-tongue weight seems like a very witchy thing to do. Which brings me to my next talking point, the characters. First thing is first, I want to bring up how funny it is that it took Grunty's sisters 2 years to finally get around to helping her from underneath this boulder. Poor Klungo has been working overtime trying to free her, but her own sisters couldn't be bothered to help out? You know what? Grunty was right to drop those one-ton weights on them. I really appreciate how this game brought so many familiar faces, while also adding more new characters without it ever being overwhelming. King Jingaling and Master Jigawigi are new characters, but with one small purpose for the game. Humbawamba is a great shaman rival to Mumbo Jumbo, offering another support system to the players for even more unique transformations. And now, the opportunity to play as Mumbo himself? Hello? Yes! Plus, whatever beef they have against each other is hysterical and has me really curious. You think they get a little jiggy together? Many of the worlds introduce new or old characters for a Jiggy challenge. We even get deeper into the lore of some of these characters, such as meeting Bottle's wife and kids. Do they add a whole lot to the story? Not by much, but it's entertaining for sure, especially after, well,
He's dead!
Jam Jars replacing Bottles as the new Move Tutor NPC is fantastic. Not just because he's dead, but Jam Jar's design makes him seem more fit to a character that could teach the Baron Bird new tricks. He's got a lot of Funky Kong vibes from DK64. Also, I love how much easier it is to spot Jam Jars in any given world. Some of Bottle's molehill mountains blended in too much into the background, while Jam Jars can be found in these silver hatches with a red or green light. Call it a skill issue, but besides your general draw distance issues, I just remember Bottles wasn't always easy to find in the first game. Also, he doesn't teach a new move in every world, so how would you know if this was the world for a new move? Jam Jar's always had a new move for the players, and usually multiple moves in a single world. Finding him spread out amongst the world worked out better in this game. This design is even more subtle to DK64's method of having a giant floating head and arrow for each support con to make up for that draw distance. A handful of the familiar faces introduce memorable challenges. I want to give a special shout out to Klungo for having a larger role in this game. 3 boss fights against him, each offering different abilities out of Klungo, is so cool. And the character development out of him is something I never expected. I applaud him for turning his back on Grunty so his wife wouldn't leave him. Rest up, King. You are free from the witch. But sadly, we aren't free from Boggy and his problematic family. I shouldn't be surprised by these bums, really. This group of polar bears are a real pain in the... As soon as I entered the back of Jolly Rider's tavern, I was thrilled to finally interact with Captain Black Eye. Even though he wasn't an in-game character of the first game, I do remember seeing his portrait in Mad Monster Mansion. So being able to actually interact with this seasick pirate was a real treat. I was amazed to see Tip Top again in this sequel. Is he getting a game anytime soon? I love that Cheetah was still in the game, even if locating him is a bit out of the way. Getting those upgrades are very much appreciated and kind of necessary. But speaking of upgrades, Banjo Tooie feels like a giant upgrade from the first game in ways I never even considered. And seriously, I don't mean that in a negative way towards Kazooie, but there are so many quality of life additions to Tooie that just got me really excited. Okay, easy example, the warp pads. I don't think the first game required warp pads considering how small the worlds are, but Tooie greatly benefits from it. I can agree the worlds are pretty big in the sequel, maybe a tad too big, but the warp pads really help the player navigate them, and even better than DK64. None of the warp pads feel like wasted potential. They are designed to help you get from point A to point B. And the tiny difference in being able to choose which location to go to, instead of the one pad only goes to the other one pad, my compliments to the chef. Get this into DK64, stat! Also, I love the clever little detail in providing character icons to help associate the location to warp to. Some are dead obvious like Mumbo and Wumba, but I remember trying to recall the location of Cauldron Keep to take down Grunty and finish the game, so I super appreciate this Grunty icon for Quagmire. I also super appreciate that Rare respects the players who have already played the first game. Starting out with all of the abilities from the previous game was brilliant, and just saves so much time. It wouldn't even make sense to the story if Kazooie randomly forgot how to Talon Trot or fly. Besides, this just leaves room for both Banjo and Kazooie to learn even more moves, not just together as a single unit, but as individual characters too. Personally, I'm a big fan of Split Up. I think it's a fun and special feature of the game, even with some of its flaws. It made me appreciate each individual character on a further level. The fact that Kazooie can run even faster is amazing, or jump even higher without Banjo weighing her down. I love how the now empty backpack offers a ton of new quirky challenges just for Banjo. Whether it's hopping over spikes, diving in hot water unharmed, or napping to regenerate health. That's awesome! And I further appreciate the opportunities to cheese the game by abusing Banjo's double jump. Whether or not that's an oversight, I'm a huge fan of going solo for either character. I've seen some folks express frustration in not being able to split up at any given time, but I never saw that as an issue or flaw. Seeing those two paths is a great indicator that there's something nearby just for Banjo or just Kazooie. I would say besides Cloud Cuckoo Land, most split up paths have a challenge nearby. Kind of like those Globos, if you find Mumbo or Wumba's hut, you'll take that as a sign to go searching nearby for this magical collectible. And I would once again argue that this is an even smoother method compared to DK64. Anytime I see Tiny's mini monkey barrel, I already know, oh, there's something for Tiny to shrink down to and explore. But then there's the hassle of searching down a nearby tag barrel. For Tooie, there's so many instances of needing to start with one character, then switching to the other to complete the task. But the game provides opportunities to simply switch to the characters at a press of a button, like these weighted pads that can only be activated by either Banjo or Kazooie. I don't see these as flaws, but correcting DK64's system that needed quality of life improvements. So even beyond those upgrades, there's a whole lot of little things that improve the game that I've come to really appreciate, like displaying the name of a room when entering it, first-person view to aim and fire eggs. Some Jiggies are automatically collected when completing a challenge, instead of completing a challenge and then needing to locate the Jiggy to collect it. Enemies having battle cries when discovering you. As if I couldn't love Kazooie anymore, now we can play as Dragon Kazooie. Also, running on water with the Turbo Trainer shoes. No more 1-ups are needed, as there's no longer a game over threat if you run out of honeycombs. Since there are so many more egg upgrades, I appreciate that all eggs or feathers can be replenished in the same nest location instead of tracking down a location to each variant. While these quality of life changes aren't as massive as, say, Tag Barrel Anywhere, I still greatly appreciate them and enjoy the light bulb moment of each discovery. So let's take a moment to talk about the worlds of Banjo Tooie and the backtracking. Going back to those three main frustrations mentioned earlier, it seems like a common solution is smaller worlds. To look back at the first game, Click Clock Wood is a world that took me about 3 hours to complete. It's the longest and final world of the game, so it makes sense for the finale to be this grand. The quickest world I completed in Tooie was, of course, the first one, Mayhem Temple, which took roughly 3 hours. The average Tooie world to complete took roughly 3.5 to 4 hours, and technically speaking, I couldn't 100% complete them without a specific move that I would later learn in the game. And then there's Grunty Industries, which required 2 streams to complete because I just couldn't complete it in one sitting. Holy smokes, this is a loaded game. The shortest world in Tooie taking just as much time to complete as Kazooie's longest world is telling. I promise I'm not complaining about the size of these worlds. I thoroughly enjoyed them, but I can absolutely see where people are coming from. The first game sets the player's expectations, and they become overwhelmed by the size. But I really think when it comes down to these two games, I just see them being different in taste. If you're interested in a quick, efficient turnaround collectathon, then Kazooie is your game. If you're more interested in an epic platformer adventure, solving puzzles, and loads of new moves, well, Tooie is your game. I really think it comes down to what your cup of tea is though. For those who know me, well, you know my love for DK64. Even with its flaws, I love this game to death. And Tooie is very DK64-ified, which is part of why I love it so much. Kazooie isn't bad in any sense. It's critically acclaimed amongst gamers with all kinds of backgrounds. I immediately saw its charm when starting up the game, and it was no surprise to me why so many people love it so much. But I find myself leaning more towards Tooie. Okay, I'm getting off track here. Let's keep talking about the levels. So with well-designed worlds like Witchy World and not so concise worlds like Pterodactyl Land, I can agree that in general, Kazooie fans would appreciate it if the Tooie worlds were maybe 10% less. No insane changes, just a little less in size, better layouts and landmarks. Like, as much as I enjoy a dino-themed world, how is it that the humongous Cloud Cuckoo Land managed to get a better color coding system than Pterodactyl Land? Anyways, that's for the Tooie Worlds tier list video. Never mind the actual size of the worlds themselves, I've heard a good number of complaints that the worlds of Banjo Tooie have too much backtracking. I can see why these comments come up in discussion considering the first game has so little backtracking in comparison. The race against Boggy and Freezeezy Peak is kind of the only one that comes to mind when it comes to big collectibles like Jiggies. And this backtracking occurs just because the player gains the Turbo Talent Shot ability later in the game. If you want to talk about backtracking in a rare game, well, we could certainly talk about Donkey Kong 64. But yes, Tooie easily has more backtracking than Kazooie. But there's a good amount of Jiggies that aren't as painful as, hey, come back when you get this ability. Like pushing off George the Ice Cube from Cloud Cuckoo Land down into the hot water of Hillfire Peak to finally cool down the pool water in Jolly Roger's Lagoon. Also, you don't have to leave Cloud Cuckoo Land to collect this Jiggy in Jolly Roger's Lagoon. It's automatically collected when the task is complete. But this connection adds so much more depth to all these worlds. They do so much more than just what's contained inside it. They're connected. And yeah, I'm gonna be one of those people that appreciates the train and its connections to each world. It's a cool feature, and it introduces different kinds of puzzles to complete. That being said, that doesn't always mean it works out right. The 6th Styracosaurus is an example of these interconnected worlds not working out so well. I needed chat to hold my hand with this one because there's no way someone would be able to figure this out all on their own. Split up Banjo and Kazooie. Use Banjo solo to taxi pack the sick dino. Take the sick dino to the train. Take the train to Isle of Hags by Mumbo. Switch to Mumbo. Stand on his pad to use magic to heal. Then switch back to Banjo and take the train back to Pterodactyl Land. Huh? I just... What? Mumbo's pad in Isle of Hags to heal was not crystal clear to me. I would easily consider this one of the tougher Jiggies to collect, which goes hand in hand as a rough contender for backtracking. In general, I don't see the backtracking going as out of control as these dinos, and I still appreciate the connection between these worlds and the train. But what about the mini games? Are they really that repetitive? Do they come up that frequently? I never felt the dread of the minigames, at least certainly not in comparison to the bonus stages in Donkey Kong 64. While I find most of them to be genuinely entertaining to play, I can't deny that some of them repeat way too much. Furthermore, these bonus stages don't tie into the world or game in a way that makes any sense. Slot machines? Fly swatters? What does this have to do with the Kongs? At least the minigames of Banjo Tooie fit in with the world's theme. The Saucer of Peril ride would make for such a fun, real-life game at an amusement park. I don't mind at all that it took me a couple tries to master, and it introduced these wacky aliens for a future challenge down the road. There are so many different iterations of collect/destroy the red, blue, green thing before time runs out. And once the player has done a few of these challenges, they know right away that blue offers the most points and red the least. But I love that the different variations make perfect sense. Guffo's trash can challenge is to destroy the different germs contained inside the trash can. Dodge 'em challenge is a bumper car challenge in an amusement park. Helping out Champa's stomach problem by taking out ulcers. There's a lot of those challenges, but they all vary in design, vary in how to complete the challenge, and what character to play as. It doesn't feel nearly as random as DK64's bonus stages, and they actually tie into the world better. I guess I can agree that both of the Coliseum kickball tournaments are more random, but come on, these were a blast to play, even if it doesn't fit into the world's theme perfectly. Unfortunately, there is a type of minigame that I have to agree is over-the-top challenging and dreadful. I'm talking about those Doom first-person mode challenges. Let me start by clarifying that on paper, I think this new ability is an incredibly hysterical and fun idea. It made me fall in love with this duo even more. I really appreciate the fact that Kazooie can regularly aim and fire eggs in first person, but seeing that animation of Banjo holding Kazooie like a gun is the kind of humor we love out of Rare. These type of challenges are usually clear out a specific enemy or character before time runs out. And the only real challenge is that there's just so many of these targets spread out in a maze. You're not gonna get it done in one go. Some trial and error is needed. But the time limit, that was just so uncalled for. I appreciate that Rare went that extra mile to give the targets sounds, so the player could try to hunt them down with the direction of their sounds. But it would really help if there was a map. Bonus points if they include either the location of Banjo-Kazooie or the location of the targets to take out. If they simply added that, I think it would be huge. But I can't be all that upset. After all, Clinker's Cavern offered this amazing moment where I accidentally glitched into an undead banjo mode. Time ran out, I was running out of air, and ran into an enemy just as I was supposed to die, giving me unlimited time on the clock. We love cheese.
Wait a minute. Did I just cheese?
I don't think it's possible for me to simply describe my love for Banjo Tooie in a single 15 to 20 minute video. This adventure is massive in every sense of the word. A massively charming cast of characters for an epic story, colorful worlds filled with challenges in ways I've never seen before, and 35 hours full of happy memories, heavy laughs, and cheese. To me, Rare took all of the great aspects of Banjo-Kazooie and BK64 to make Banjo Tooie. Is there room for improvement? You betcha. But I'd rather a game have too much to do than too little. Far too many games today get released unfinished, with the remainder of the game getting locked behind DLC. I'm thrilled to see more and more people have positive things to say about this sequel, and that I got to share this first-time playthrough with so many of you. To my eyes, it's not about Kazooie versus Tooie. These are both awesome games, but play very differently, so it's a matter of what your cup of tea is. Now to sit back and patiently wait for Banjo 3.